Hello there. Going through a divorce? Considering one? Sorry to hear that, but here you are. Welcome to Splitsville. You'll find Splitsville to be a pretty unique place. A new world, really, with its own rules, its own expectations, and in many ways, its own language. But don't worry, you have a knowledgeable guide along the way. And now, here she is.
Hi, my name is Sheila Passenant. I'm a family law attorney at Touchstone Family Law, and we're very happy to have you here today to meet and speak with our certified divorce financial analyst, Kristen Shearin. And we're going to talk about some tips and resources and information that we believe will help make the process of separation and divorce free from fear, free from anxiety, or at least a little bit better than without her services. So I'm going to leave it to Kristen.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. We're really excited to be here with you to tell you about certified divorce financial analysts and how they can help with the divorce process. So a certified divorce financial analyst is somebody that's had financial training in the divorce process. They're generally financial planners, accountants, some lawyers, some paralegals, but there's somebody that has had a great deal of amount of financial training and specifically how financials can be impacted by divorce. And so a certified divorce financial analyst can be a great tool in your belt when you're going through a divorce, whether you're the spouse that is financially informed about your assets and your debts, or you're the spouse that doesn't know as much about your finances. A certified divorce financial analyst can really help you feel more comfortable with the process. There's always a lot of fear around a divorce situation. Everyone's always worried that the outcome's going to be something that is going to negatively impact them. And what a certified divorce financial analyst can do is they can do projections for you. So they can say, okay, if this settlement works out and in this way, this is what this is going to look like for you 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. They can help you with your budgets. They can help you answer some of those questions that are keeping you awake at night in terms of, can I afford the house? How am I going to pay for the kids? And what is my monthly spending and my monthly budget going to look like? So you'll laugh. I was at a party this weekend and somebody said, I was explaining what I do, and they said, well, just divide it in half. Why is it hard? And I mean, none of us would have jobs if that was true. I mean, this is your entire net worth. It's your entire financial security. It's your financial future. And so it's really important to get that right. And so a certified divorce financial analyst can help you with verifying what everyone's income streams actually are, whether your spouse has, a bonus or a complicated compensation plan, or if they have income that's irregular in any way, shape, or form. So most of our divorces are rarely straightforward when it comes to income. There's usually at least some argument about what income actually exists. And so a certified divorce financial analyst can come along and they can double check all of the numbers so that everyone in the room feels really comfortable with starting out with, okay, this is the income that we have to work with, and this is the actual income that we have to work with. And so it takes away that argument. You don't have to fight about it. You don't have to be worried about it. You have a financial neutral expert to come in and say, this is what the income is. And from there, you can look at the budgets and say, okay, well, this is the budget if you keep the house. This is the budget if you sell the house. If you have to buy them out of the house, this is how much retirement it's going to cost you to buy them out of the house for the equity. They can help you understand what all of those outcomes look like so that you can make informed decisions. You can make smart decisions about your future. I think it's something that, whether you're a dependent spouse, whether you're the supporting spouse, if you're the supporting spouse, you want your spouse.
And before we go any further, our audience, not everyone knows what these terms are. What we're sharing today with you is in no way legal advice or financial advice. Kristen is here simply to give you some resources and some tips. But as we go forward, what is a supporting spouse?
So a supporting spouse is the spouse that generally is employed and earns the income during the marriage, or at least earns the majority of the income during the marriage. A dependent spouse is someone who is financially dependent upon that supporting spouse for their lifestyle and subsistence. And so in cases of alimony, these are terms that we would use. And this process that I was talking about is one of the ways that we could determine what would be appropriate spousal support amount. It's more complicated than that because when you're looking at your financial future, what your financial future looks like, you also have to consider the assets and the debts that you're going to be getting in that distribution. And some of those assets can be income producing assets. They can be assets that will fund your lifestyle, or they can be assets that are going to cost you money, such as a house. And so when we're deciding what assets to distribute to a husband or to distribute to a wife, these are things that we want to take into consideration. We also want to take into consideration your monthly budget and your monthly financial needs as you go forward, so that we're making sure that we get you the right assets and debts so that you can maintain your lifestyle going forward.
And speaking of that, when is the time, when can we get a certified divorce financial analyst involved? What's a good time to contact you and how do we find you?
It's really your comfort level. I almost like when couples come to see a certified divorce financial analyst first, because when that way, when you go to see your attorney, you can give them a complete financial picture of what your assets and your debts and your income situation looks like, because that gives them the opportunity to give you better financial advice. If you go and have a consultation with an attorney, which is also a great idea, but they're going to ask you these questions. And if you can answer them, then great. But if you can't answer them, then it might be a good time to bring in a certified divorce financial analyst to put all of that together so that you're giving your attorney all of the information that they need to move forward with your case.
So you can actually work with the attorney who's helping our clients.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually prefer to work with attorneys. I'm happy to work with clients individually, but the process works better when we do work with attorneys. And you can each have your own attorney, and the certified divorce financial analyst can be a neutral for both of you, or your attorney can hire a certified divorce financial analyst to advocate just for you. So it can be done either way. And certainly we feel more comfortable working with attorneys, but it's not necessary. One of the best things that we can do, I think, for your attorneys is testify at temporary hearings. And I tell people this all the time, but when you have a temporary hearing, when you're putting in place a temporary child support hearing or a temporary spousal support hearing, you're really only given 30 minutes. And it's not a lot of time to get in all of the information that we need. And so, especially when you're not comfortable testifying, you haven't testified before, you're nervous, you're overwhelmed, and a certified divorce financial analyst can actually go in and testify for you as to just the numbers and the facts, which makes it easier for the judge to make a decision. And it makes it easier for the judge to make a decision that's right.
So a certified divorce financial analyst can also help in the event you're not able to work things out outside of court. If you have to go to litigation, go to court, what would your role be there? How would that work?
We would testify to any items that are in dispute. For example, if you had a 401k that had a separate property component, which means that you had part of it before you were married, and then you got married and you continued to contribute to it. Well, any portion that you had prior to the marriage, you would have a separate property argument. And a certified divorce financial analyst can help you calculate what that is. And then the certified divorce financial analyst can testify in court as to what that number could be. They can testify in terms of budgets for dependent spouses or supporting spouses, and they can testify about what your children's financial needs are. Because part of what we do is we look at what your historical spending has been, and we utilize that to create affidavits or spreadsheets or charts that we would use to present in court to help the judge make good, informed decisions. When you go to court, you just simply don't have a lot of time. Our judges, I think, come to court every day with the absolute best of intentions, but we ask a lot of them. We ask them to absorb all of this information and determine what's true, and then make a good and fair decision based off of that data. And so when you have a certified divorce financial analyst, you're just making that decision infinitely easier for them, because they don't have to parse through a lot of irrelevant data, and they don't have to spend a lot of time determining what data is true, because you're there as an expert. And so you're there as someone who has verified the information that you're testifying about. And so you just have a lot more credibility in the court, and it makes for better outcomes on both sides, in my opinion.
A lot of people, or our potential clients come to us and they're worried. They say, to get separated, you have to live in two places. We don't have enough money. How do I figure out a budget? How can you help someone who hasn't separated yet, wants to separate, and they're like, I don't know what to do. We have just this one pot of money. How can you help with budgeting?
Yeah, and I mean, it's difficult, right? I mean, most people live up to their means. And all of a sudden, you have to create an environment where you have to live in two separate households with the same amount of money. And so those are tough conversations, they're hard conversations. So we start out by creating what was the family budget. What things do you spend money on historically? We look at the income, and then we look at who is going to keep the house. Is it possible for one of the spouses to keep the house, or is the house going to have to be sold? And so that's really the starting point of the discussions. Is it possible to keep the house? Does somebody want to keep the house? And if you do, and if that's the case, then we can start from there. We look at the income and we look at the budgets based off of historical bank statements, and we create a budget for you based off of what you have historically spent. Now, depending on your income level, it may or may not be possible to maintain that lifestyle based off of the income that's available to you. And we might have to have some hard conversations about that, but we can break it down for you in a way that you can understand it, and we can at least explain to you what your monthly deficit is going to be. So if you have to go out and get a job, or you have to look at other employment opportunities, then you have that number that you know that you need in order to meet your monthly needs and expenses. Or we have a conversation about your monthly needs and expenses, and the changes that need to occur. But it takes away that fear that what's going to happen. We can break that down for you, and we can have productive conversations about it so that you know exactly what that's going to look like, so that there's not going to be any surprises.
And you mentioned earlier there are some people that they are aware of their finances and some people have no idea because maybe one spouse was kind of in charge of all the finances and the other one was in charge of other things. How can you help the person that has no clue, no idea, to find out what's in their marital estate? How much money should I get in support? How can you be of help there?
And that's actually my favorite thing to do is to,
Like the person that comes in with the shopping bag full of
yeah.
bank statements.
Well, and first of all, it's super common. So, you shouldn't feel embarrassed if that's the case,
Mhm.
because there's so many people that was the dynamic in their marriage. It's completely normal. I would say normal in almost every case to have at least some level of not understanding of what your finances are. So, a certified divorce financial analyst can help you understand what it is. What do you have? How can it be utilized? Is this a retirement account that you can't touch? You may think that you have assets, but those assets aren't liquid and they can't be utilized to live. And so we can break all of that down for you and help you understand it so that you can make informed decisions. So what we do is we don't make the decisions for you. We help you understand where you're at, help you understand what it's going to look like in the future if you do X or Y or Z. We break it down into the different options to say, okay, if you want to keep the house, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to cost. If you sell the house, this is going to be your budget for if you want to find a new residence. This is what your child support's going to look like. These are your monthly expenses. And, everyone's always really surprised once we actually break down your monthly expenses and you go, oh, this is what it costs. But since we do it all the time, we understand to ask the questions that you don't know to ask because you haven't been through this process before. And so that's part of our role, is just educating you so that you feel good about the decisions that you're making about your financial future.
So, Kristen, you mentioned earlier that you could be a financial neutral. At Touchstone Family Law, our attorneys also participate in the collaborative process where you work outside of the courtroom. And what would be your role in a collaborative case where everyone's agreed not to go to court? How can you help in that situation?
So I don't know a single CDFA that actually advocates for the court process. I think most of us very passionately feel that the work that we do will keep you out of court, or at least should keep you out of court. Because I think once you break through those misunderstandings about money and have productive conversations about money, the outcomes become much more clear. And a certified divorce financial analyst, I think our preferred role is in a collaborative setting. And it doesn't have to be formal collaborative law. It just means we like to participate in the mediation process, in the settlement process. Our goal is to help you come up with a settlement that is reasonable and fair to both parties and takes away any of those lingering questions or misunderstandings that may be surrounding money in your divorce. So most certified divorce financial analysts are absolutely happy to work as a neutral, and that would be the preferred role. And we're happy to advocate for one party or the other as well. But I think that generally the process works better when you have a neutral, because then you don't have two competing experts. So you just have one person that's there to answer all the financial questions. And when you come to a roadblock in your settlement that is surrounding money, then you have somebody to go to and say, okay, certified divorce financial analyst, what are our options here? What kind of solutions do we have? Which number's true? What's the best way that this is going to work? Or vice versa, we can say this isn't going to work. In a lot of cases, you'll have a situation where there's a lot of debt, or your financial assets are tied up in complicated ways. We can help you figure out how to untangle that so that you're both going to be okay. We can consider tax consequences, capital gains, all of the things that you don't know to think about because you haven't been through this before. So a certified divorce financial analyst can be a great resource for both parties and their attorneys to help work through those roadblocks that you're most certainly going to hit in mediation or as negotiations take place.
So in essence, you can play an important role before someone separates. They can meet with you, come up with a budget, give them some realistic options. After you separate, you can be a neutral, or you can be an advocate for that person should they have to go to court. Basically, a CDFA like Kristen can take the fear out of the finances for you.
Yeah,
If you
just
have
makes the process a lot smoother. Attorneys actually like us because this isn't necessarily their chosen field or their particular field of study. Most attorneys are well versed in all the finances that we deal with, but having that neutral in place takes away a lot of the argument and a lot of the roadblocks that we encounter.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. We really enjoyed spending time with you. Goodbye.
So there you have it, another neighborhood of Splitsville explored. There's still so much to learn here, so I hope you'll tune in to the next episode. While Splitsville is not a fun place to be, thankfully it is full of helpful people, valuable resources, and sound advice, if you know where to look. See you next time.
The insights and views presented in Welcome to Splitsville are for general information purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. Nor does tuning into this podcast constitute an attorney-client relationship of any kind. If you're ready for compassionate and reliable legal guidance on your journey, contact Lee Sellers and her team at www.touchstonefamilylaw.com.